Have you ever looked at the clock and thought, where did the day go? Or maybe you've said something like, it feels like this year flew by. It's something a lot of people notice, especially as they get older. So that raises a question that sounds simple, but is actually really complex. Is time really speeding up? To answer that, we need to break things down into two parts. First, there's time as a physical thing, the kind scientists study, and second, there's time as we feel it, the way our brains experience the passing of moments. These two versions of time aren't the same, and that's where a lot of confusion comes from. Scientifically, time is a constant. It moves forward at the same rate for everyone. It doesn't speed up or slow down on its own, at least not in the way we usually think about it. The universe has its own clock, and that clock ticks steadily second by second. That's how physics sees it. So if we're talking about whether time is actually speeding up in the universe, the answer, for the most part, is no. Time moves at a steady pace. But here's the twist. Our experience of time doesn't always match up with what the clock says. And that's where things start to get interesting. Because while the universe follows its own rhythm, our brains can mess with our sense of it. It's not that time is moving faster, it's that it feels like it is. And for most people, that feeling becomes stronger the older they get. Think about childhood. Summers felt endless, school years dragged on. A single year felt like forever, but now, weeks fly by. Years blur together. That shift isn't just in your head, it's tied to how your brain processes time. When we're younger, everything is new. Our brains are busy soaking up new experiences, and that creates stronger memories. As we age, life becomes more routine. Fewer new memories means time starts to feel like it's slipping through our fingers. And it's not just about memories. Scientists have studied how our brains process time itself. The more mental activity and information we're dealing with, the slower time seems to pass. So when we're bored or waiting, time crawls. But when we're busy or doing something familiar, it can feel like hours vanish in minutes. All of this means that while time is constant in the universe, our experience of it is not. The sensation that time is moving faster is real to us. But it's not because the universe is spinning the clock faster, it's because our brains are changing the way we feel it. Still, that leads to something even deeper. Some researchers have looked at the universe itself and wondered, was time always moving at the same speed? What if billions of years ago, time really did behave differently? Next, we'll dive into what scientists have discovered about the early universe and how time may have actually moved slower back then, not just in feeling, but in physical reality. Now that we've looked at how our personal experiences can affect the way we feel time passing, let's shift our focus to the bigger picture, how time works from a scientific point of view. One important thing to understand is that time itself, as far as science knows, does not actually speed up or slow down. In physics, time is considered a constant. It moves forward at a steady rate for everyone, no matter how we feel about it. That said, how we observe time in the universe can be very different, depending on where and how we're looking. Einstein's theory of general relativity, first introduced in the year 1915, gave us a new way to look at time and space. He suggested that time and space are connected, kind of like two parts of the same thing. This means time doesn't always move the same in every situation. If you're in a place with strong gravity or moving at incredibly high speeds, time can behave differently. This is called time dilation. For example, astronauts on the International Space Station experience time just a tiny bit slower than we do on Earth, though it's not something we would notice in daily life. But here's where things get really interesting. Scientists have found that time in the early universe didn't behave quite the same way it does now. A study led by Professor Geraint Lewis from the University of Sydney used something called quasars to observe how time moved more than 12 billion years ago. Quasars are super bright objects powered by black holes in the middle of young galaxies, and they give off regular patterns of light that can be used like cosmic clocks. By studying the light from around 200 quasars, scientists were able to look back to when the universe was just over 1 billion years old. What they found was surprising. From our position today, that early time appears to move about 5 times slower. In other words, if you were somehow able to travel back and live in that early universe, time would feel normal to you. But from where we are now, it would look like everything was happening in slow motion. This observation lines up with what Einstein predicted. Because the universe has been expanding ever since the Big Bang, looking deeper into space also means looking further back in time. The farther back we look, the slower time seems to move. This is not because time was actually slower for those living in that period. It's because the expansion of space stretches the light and makes events appear to unfold more slowly. Until recently, scientists struggled to prove this part of Einstein's theory. But with the quasar study published in Nature Astronomy, there's now real observational evidence. It's a huge step forward in understanding how time behaves across the universe, and yet even with these discoveries, we still face big questions. For example, Einstein's theory works well for most things, but it doesn't fully explain how gravity works inside a black hole. That means at some point, scientists will need a new theory, something even more complete than general relativity, to fully explain how time and gravity interact on every level. So while time as a concept may not actually be speeding up, what we're learning about the universe shows that our understanding of time is still evolving. In the next part, we'll explore why scientists believe our brains may be wired to sense time differently depending on what we're doing and how we feel. Now let's move from the outer edges of the universe back to our own minds. While physics explains time as something constant and measurable, our brains don't always experience it that way. In fact, scientists believe that how we feel time passing is deeply connected to how our brains process memories, attention, and emotion. Time might move steadily in theory, but the way we sense it is anything but steady. One of the most important ideas behind this is that our perception of time is closely tied to how much information our brains are handling at any moment. When we are exposed to new or intense experiences, especially ones that demand a lot of attention, our brains create more detailed memories. This makes those moments feel longer when we look back on them. That's why a childhood summer might seem endless, or a 10-minute emergency can feel like an hour. The brain is simply absorbing more than usual. Neuroscientists often point to something called the rate of information processing. This theory suggests that the more events we notice in a period of time, the longer that stretch of time seems. This is especially true during childhood, when everything is new and the brain is constantly recording unfamiliar sights, sounds, and feelings. Because each moment is packed with learning and discovery, our internal sense of time stretches out. As we grow older and our routines become more predictable, our brains don't take in as much new information. When days blend together, fewer unique memories are created. So when we look back, time seems to have passed more quickly. The days themselves weren't shorter, but with fewer standout moments. They feel that way in hindsight. Another factor that affects time perception is the level of focus we give to our surroundings. During high-alert situations, like a near accident or a public performance, our minds become hyper-aware. Time can seem to slow down in the moment because we are paying close attention to everything happening. But when we're distracted or multitasking, the opposite can happen. Hours may pass without us really noticing because we weren't present in the moment. Emotions also play a role. Feelings of boredom, anxiety, or discomfort can make time seem to crawl. On the other hand, when we're deeply engaged or having fun, time flies by. The saying, "time flies when you're having fun," isn't just a cliche. It's backed by real psychological research. Positive experiences often involve deep focus and enjoyment, which actually reduce how much we think about time passing. So while the clock ticks at the same pace for everyone, our brains turn time into something personal. The difference between a long afternoon and a short summer might come down to how much we notice, how we feel, and what we remember. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at the role technology plays in shaping our experience of time, especially in today's digital world. As we move deeper into understanding time, there's another powerful force influencing how we experience it: technology. In today's world filled with screens, notifications, and constant online connection, our relationship with time has changed in ways previous generations never imagined. Digital devices have made life faster, but they've also made time feel more fragmented. We jump from one app to another, scroll through endless posts, and respond to messages around the clock. These quick bursts of activity can make it hard to tell how much time is really passing. A person might spend what feels like a few minutes on their phone, only to realize that a full hour has slipped by. Social media adds to this distortion. Content is designed to be short, addictive, and non-stop. Videos last seconds. Stories vanish after a day, and timelines update in real time. This constant stream of brief moments can create the illusion that time is moving quickly, yet without anything meaningful to show for it. Unlike reading a book or having a conversation, the time spent online often leaves no lasting memory. Streaming platforms also affect our perception of time. Binge watching a series can erase the boundaries between day and night. Without commercial breaks or scheduled times, we lose the sense of structure that used to guide our routines. This freedom can be enjoyable, but it also makes it easier to lose track of how much time we're actually spending in front of a screen. Even our sense of night and day has been blurred by technology. The blue light from phones and computers can trick our brains into thinking it's still daytime. This disrupts sleep cycles and confuses our internal clocks, making it harder for the body to follow its natural rhythm. Without a clear sense of beginning and end to each day, time can start to feel like a blur. Technology also affects our ability to be present. Notifications and multitasking pull our attention in different directions. Instead of focusing deeply on one thing, we divide our time between several things at once. This split attention can make it harder to create strong memories, leading to the feeling that time is slipping away without anything truly memorable happening. In earlier times, people's lives were marked by the sun rising and setting, by seasons changing, or by the rhythm of work and rest. Today, the world never really stops. Messages arrive at midnight, meetings happen across time zones, and digital life continues even when we're asleep. This non-stop pace leaves little room for stillness, and without moments of stillness, it becomes harder to grasp the passing of time. As we wrap up, we'll explore how people are trying to reclaim time through mindfulness, nature, and intentional living, and why finding peace with time might be one of the most important challenges of the modern world. In the search to understand time and to feel more at peace with it, many people are turning to slower, more intentional ways of living. After years of racing through schedules, notifications, and digital distractions, there's a growing movement to slow down and reconnect with a more natural rhythm. One way people are doing this is by practicing mindfulness. This involves focusing on the present moment without judgment, paying attention to what is happening right now, instead of worrying about the future or replaying the past. Even a few minutes of mindful breathing or quiet observation can stretch out time in a way that feels calm and meaningful. Spending time in nature is another way to reset our relationship with time. In the natural world, change happens slowly and steadily. A tree grows across decades. A river carves its path over centuries. When people spend time in forests, by the ocean, or under the open sky, they often report a feeling of timelessness. There are no alerts, no clocks ticking, just the steady presence of something larger than ourselves. Some have embraced what's known as slow living, a lifestyle built around doing fewer things. More intentionally, that could mean cooking meals from scratch, walking instead of driving, or leaving phones in another room during conversations. These choices might seem small, but they allow people to feel more connected to their daily lives and more aware of how they're spending their time. Others find peace by creating routines that bring structure without pressure. Waking up at the same time each morning, reading before bed, or keeping a journal can help anchor the day. These habits create a gentle rhythm that makes time feel less chaotic and more stable. There are also those who reflect deeply on their memories as a way of reclaiming time. Writing down stories, organizing old photos, or simply sitting with past experiences can give meaning to the years that have gone by. It reminds us that while time passes, the moments that matter can still be held close. In the end, no one can stop time from moving, but we can change how we live within it. By slowing down, paying attention, and making space for quiet, we begin to experience time not as something we're fighting against, but as something we're living with. In a world that often moves too fast, learning to live fully in the moment might be the most powerful way to stretch time. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: time may keep moving forward, but we still have the power to decide how it feels as it passes.